Hi guys, welcome back to Digital Empaths, and I'm your host Sushant Ajmani. So in our today's Weekend Knowledge series, we are going to continue on our last conversation around digital customer experience, in which in the first part of the episode, we talked about the 4 success factors in order to deliver the digital customer experience. The first factor we discussed in the previous episode was that designing and digitization of your customer journeys. And while doing that designing, you need to keep the customer needs and wants at the epicenter. We discussed on the relevance of defining your audience personas. We also discussed on that how important is it for any large enterprise or mid-sized enterprise who's on the journey of digital customer experience to start defining their audience profiles. And audience profiling is a most crucial effort in the whole customer digitization process. Second success factor we discussed in our last episode was that how we can improve the speed and agility in our insights generation process. Because in order for you to create a new digital culture, in order for you to make your customers adopt your newly defined journeys, it's very important to have a proper measurement framework in place. And there are various measures you need to benchmark before you kickstart this journey. Some set of your measures are operational measures, something like how many calls you are entertaining at your call center on a monthly basis. Another measure could be that how much cost you're incurring on IVRs, how much cost you're incurring when the customer reaches a physical rep over the phone. What is the cost of that particular conversation? What is your call average handling time? What percentage of your support issues are getting resolved in the first interaction itself? Okay, the satisfaction rates at the call center level. Okay, so these are some of your operational measures, and there's a lot of other measures that you can have in your call center dashboard to gauge how your reps and how your customers are being entertained through that particular medium or channel. The second set of measures are more around satisfaction measures, which are revolving around your CSAT, your Net Promoter Score. And the third, which oftentimes gets overlooked, is the customer effort score. Okay, how much effort the customer has to put in place to get their issues resolved, which is a very, very powerful metric that we discussed in the previous episode. And if you're not capturing it, you should definitely consider it, because CSAT and NPS, these are the two metrics which have been very much misused over these years. Companies are capturing both these information through surveys, and they're also capturing at the individual touch point level instead of at the entire end-to-end journey. And if you are capturing the CSAT and NPS at the touchpoint level, that means you're trying to capitalize on that touchpoint experience. You're trying to learn that how you can improve that particular touchpoint. But if you look at in real world, the customer experience can't be just restricted to one touchpoint. It has to span across the entire journey. And when you start looking at these measures at the journey level, you will get a completely different view that what are the pains your consumers are facing. The third set of measures we discussed was the life cycle measures. The measures like your customer lifetime value, measures around churn probability. If you are a B2B player, the share of wallet of your customers, okay? The customer acquisition cost that you are incurring while you acquire a new customer, okay? Usually the math goes that your customer acquisition cost and your lifetime value has a very strong relation with them. Most of the companies, if you're a B2B player, you try to make your lifetime value at least 5 to 6 times your customer acquisition cost. And in today's world, we all know that our customer acquisition costs are just skyrocketing because of the channel proliferation. Because in the older days, early 2000s, the amount of touch points it was required from the customer to make any conversion and the amount of touch points required in today's ecosystem are significantly vary. In today's world, customers are taking a lot or longer time in making a decision whether I should go for this particular service provider or this particular retailer or brand or not, because there are plenty of options at their disposal. The fourth set of measures we discussed was the clickstream measures or your marketing measures. Okay, so if you are a multi-channel player who also have a digital channel, okay, where you're interacting with your consumers through your mobile apps or your mobile website, or could be a simple desktop website, you need to capture the amount of traffic you are getting across different segments. Okay, and you need to also look at the bounce rates on your landing page, because after all, you're spending a lot of money on your digital campaigns and you don't want a large chunk of your customers to drop on the landing page itself. You want them to engage, you want them to go deeper into the website or the app. You want to understand the visit depth, that how deep your customers are going onto your website, how well they're exploring your taxonomy, your conversion workflows, how well they're interacting with your search channel, because a decent percentage of customers who have a predefined need, they come to the website and the first action they perform is the search. You also need to look at your abandonment rates. If you're an e-commerce retailer, abandonment rate is a very, very critical metric, because you want people to come and purchase. And a lot of people are just simply adding an item to a cart and just abandoning the process. Something is definitely wrong. Either the problem is with the shipping, either they are looking for a discounts which you're not offering anymore, the problem with the taxation, maybe the inventory availability is the problem, maybe your handling time is quite longer. People are looking for a faster delivery, but you are giving them more than 7 to 10 days of delivery time, and that sometimes may not be in interest of the customer. Maybe your return policy is not that good. Maybe your shipping policy is not favorable for the customer. And like this, there could be multiple factors which are swaying the customer to just drop the process and go to the competition. So these are some of the measures which are very critical when you are defining your measurement framework. And you need to benchmark these measures prior to starting your customer experience journey. Now, in today's episode, we're going to discuss on the third success factor, which is around achieving the customer adoption of your digital customer journeys. Because after all, you want people to adopt it. And a lot of times what I've seen in my experience is there is always a channel bias. Because if traditionally you have been very much focused on the offline channels to serve your customers, and customers have developed a strong affinity towards that, and there's a bias towards that. They like more in-person interaction, or they want to talk to a physical human being because they feel that resolves the issue faster, then it becomes very difficult that all the efforts that you're going to put in place in digitizing it or creating alternative routes for entertaining the support issues or other marketing related issues, then it goes for a toss. Because ultimately all the efficiencies and cost gain that you want to achieve, customers needs to adopt your alternative digital journeys. And if it's not working out, it's a time to take a step back and see why is it happening. So what we're going to do is we're going to discuss on some of the tactics that once you have defined those alternative digital journeys, okay, along with your traditional offline mediums through which you are serving your customer, what are those key strategies you can deploy? The first thing is your marketing plays a very, very critical role. Okay, you need to spend money on search engine optimization. You need to spend money on your display marketing. You need to do some brand awareness campaigns on different channels, whether through your Google Display Network, whether it's through Bing, or you can also use your email drip campaigns to create awareness and let the people know that yes, now there are alternative paths to do the same thing. Even if you have a mobile app, or even if you are entertaining your customers through a call center, a lot of times you might have noticed that when you make a call to the call center, the first thing they tell you is that, sir, there is an alternative digital channel through which the same kind of request can be entertained. You can go to our website, or you can download our app and submit your request over there, or maybe try to resolve the issue on your own. The second thing is creating not just the awareness, but also creating education. Okay. A lot of times companies use the television as one of the medium. Sometimes they use the YouTube videos as another mediums to create awareness about it, how to use these alternative digital channels, okay, which are more cost efficient for the organizations. So creating those short videos plays a very, very important role, because after all, you need to be on the top of the mind recall of the customer. If they don't know that you have these alternative channels available, they would never use it. Third piece here is that you need to trigger the initial usage of these digital channels through testing, because you don't want to completely radically trying to change the behavior of the customer, because people behaviors are tough to change, and you need to take a very cautious steps where you are testing the new digital channels with maybe one or two of your audience segments, instead of making a radical move and trying to come up with a completely new channels and trying to create that disruption. Sometimes it confuses the customer, okay, and you don't want to confuse your customer. You want to make their journey seamless when they adopt the newer channels. So testing plays a very, very important role. So you need to create those focus groups, do some A/B testing, trying to figure it out, the amount of time it takes for the customers to get entertained by a customer service rep through a call center, and the amount of time it takes by a digital channel to get the same issue resolved is very important. I've seen in the past experience where the companies have started the live web chat or interacting with their chatbot, where still a physical human being is sitting behind the scene to get the issue resolved. And despite of starting those channels, the number of calls that goes to the call center are significantly higher, because your live web agent is not able to get the issue resolved. And if, despite of the offering that, if the customer is making a call to the call center, your operational cost is increasing, because every call to an IVR or talking to a physical rep costs money. And it can go anywhere from $1.75 to even $5, $6 per call. Okay, IVR are a little bit cheaper, but if you are reaching to a physical rep, that is the most expensive way to entertaining the customer request. So you need to be very cautious about that. Even if you are starting the new alternative digital routes to get the same issue resolved, whether those mediums are self-sufficient, are bug-free or not. Because if they are not able to resolve the issue faster, if they don't have the same level of ammunition, then it defeats the whole purpose. So start with an experiment, start with a small focus group, maybe pick some of your segments. Like most of the large telecom players, if you look at it, their segments could be your consumers, your SMBs, your large corporates who are taking the services in bulk. They must be serving to central governments or state governments, or maybe educational institutions, or so you need to identify that which segments we should start with. Okay. Fourth aspect here is that if you already have a mobile app through which you are entertaining your customer, and you are going to further add more and more mobile apps to influence the other parts of the consumer journey. So take a step back and see how many apps a customer can have. You don't want, if you're an insurance provider, you don't want one app to teach the people about your different insurance products and providing support. And there's another app to file for a claim. And there's another app to take advantage of the other value-added services that the insurance provider provides. Sometimes it's better to just pool all those capabilities and services into one single app, so that customers have everything under their control. They don't need to switch the apps on their mobile phone. The other aspect is that identify what are those high frequency tasks or requests that the customers make, and attack those things first. See how we can bring those aspects into the digital spectrum. Because there are certain types of requests like recharging of your set-top boxes, or paying the monthly bills, or sometimes what happens is customers have to reset their set-top box whenever they see any kind of an outage or any kind of a challenge with the channels that they're viewing. So resetting up of a set-top box, so recharging their set-top box, and sometimes paying your bills. Maybe these are some of the high frequency tasks that can be digitized first, instead of we go for more complicated tasks, where the frequency is not that high. The other pass is that how we can continuously improve and incorporate these, evolve these customer journeys, because you have put together a measurement framework and you need to keep an eye on a weekly and a monthly basis that how my new journeys are being adopted, how the people are enjoying these new workflows. Are they facing any functional challenges? Are they facing any accessibility challenges? Are there any usability challenges are there? Or what kind of different types of challenges customers are facing with these new launched journeys? A lot of times I've seen that the enterprises offer incentives to the customer for them to adopt the new digital journeys, because sometimes giving those small discounts, those vouchers play a very important role, because we are a part of economy where people loves discounts and offers. So sometimes giving those quick coupons and voucher codes makes a very, very big role in transitioning people from the less cost efficient channels to more cost efficient channels. And last could be reducing the effectiveness or limiting access to the legacy channels. So you need to let the people realize that the older channels where you were incurring a lot of cost to entertain, that how you can make those channels a little bit redundant for them. And you have to do in a very subtle fashion. You just can't make a radical move that, you know what, we are stopping the call center services, okay? So you need to gradually reduce the effectiveness of that. And it, you have to be very careful here. I remember an instance a couple of years ago. I was working with the telecom provider in Europe, where they provided the set-top boxes to their customers, and approximately a large chunk of their consumer segment was using the Cisco set-top boxes. And one of the common reason people were making the calls to the call center was that they used to have constant challenges with their set-top boxes, so it has to be recharged. So what the telecom provider did was they provided an option for the self reset of your set-top boxes. So that means you don't need to make a call to the call center to get the set-top boxes reset. You can do it on your own. So a customer can go to the My Account section and he can just press a button and the set-top box gets reset. And but despite of offering that feature, for some of their digital savvy customers, it was not happening. So they wanted to figure it out, that why is it happening? And after doing a lot of research and doing some kind of a focus group surveys and interacting with their customers, they found out that more than 65% of the consumer base was using the old, outdated Cisco set-top boxes, which cannot be reset through a web channel. It requires a forced reset, and that can only be done through a call center rep. So sometimes these kind of issues play a very, very important role in making the people adopt to your journeys or not. So be very careful about that when you are adding any newer journeys, that those newer journeys, those newer channels are self-sufficient and have the right ammunition in place. Only then the customers will adopt it. The fourth success factor we're going to discuss today is that how we can develop agility in delivering the journey transformation. See, the moment we talked about the word agile, the first thing comes into mind is the product management, okay? Because whenever we're building a product, we talked about agile development or doing those minimum viable deployments or minimum viable products. The same agile philosophy can be applied in the services sector also. You don't need to be a product company to use the complete benefits of the agile framework. So whenever you are trying to develop your journey transformation vision and you need to start executing on that, create your cross-functional team, identify certain people from different departments, whether it's from the call center department, your marketing, your sales, your operations, your e-commerce, okay? And create that core pod, okay? And that core group needs to discuss and look at it, not just the incumbent journeys, but also need to look at the segment level, that how the different segments, their different personas are leveraging those incumbent journeys. Okay, what are the pain areas that they're facing? What kind of channel bias that they have? They also need to look at the amount of money the organization is investing in supporting those journeys. The fundamental problem that all the companies face is the recurring cost of retention of your customers across different segments. And the cost of retention is going high for almost every kind of industry, whether you are a telecom provider, you're a banking, financial services, insurance, or it could be a retail, because the cost of retention is going high year over year. Because every time your customer segments are increasing, the channels are increasing, your catalog is spreading, okay, you're offering more and more solutions and services to your customers. Of course, the expectation from support point of view also increases. So it's very, very important that when you are developing your journey transformation, you need to bring agility. So create that cross-functional group where they can discuss, sit, and see how they can challenge the status quo, okay? And think out of the box that what exactly do they need to do to implement that particular piece. The first lesson that I learned when I was on my path of digital customer experience journey is that you need to do an assessment of the maturity, whether the company who is trying to go to the DCX routes, are they mature enough to go that path or not? And the maturity assessment can be done through multiple ways. You need to look at the customer segments right now, whether the kind of customers that you are catering to, are they digital savvy? Are they ready enough to adopt your new journeys? Because if you are a certain brand or a category who's serving those type of customers which are old school, okay, who are completely traditionals, okay, they are like basic matures or traditionals who love interaction with the physical rep, and the education level is not that high, the digital penetration in that segment is not that high. So it's very, very difficult to sway these customers to go for an alternative routes. So look at your customers, your segments, your personas, and their journeys. And that is a very critical part of your DCX maturity assessment phase. The second thing is the different tools and technologies you have, because ultimately, when you are building any product also, you look at the product from three aspects. My customers are desiring my product. There is a desirability. It is feasible for us to build that particular product because we have the right human capital in play, the right tools and technologies in place. And also the viability, that is it viable for our organization to build that product? Is it profitable for us or not? If it's not, there's no point going that particular route. So it's very, very important that you assess your tools and technology infrastructure also before you go this way. Data plays a very, very important role. If you don't have the right measurement framework in place, the right data in place that you have been capturing over these years across different channels, then that also defeats the whole purpose. It delays the process because now you have to make a lot of assumptions. Fourth is the type of governance practices that you have internally in the organization, that the governance around your data, the governance around your segmentation strategy, who owns the segments, who evolve the segments, okay, who's responsible for reclassifying the customers from one segment to another. Is it completely machine learning driven? Is it human driven? And what are the data security policies are in place? So all those things have to be taken into consideration. Feedback loop, that's a very, very important aspect. That, see, technology, the different platforms that your company has invested in, whether it's a CRM platform or your PIM or platforms around your order management system, or you have your analytics systems on play, whatever different platform that you have invested in, the major objective behind this platform is not just to capture the information, but also to deliver the customer experience, whether it even your CMS platforms. So before you leverage these technologies to deliver experience, you also need to think about that. How am I going to capture the feedback loop? Okay, because ultimately you need a closed feedback loop system. You want people to express their passive and active feedback so that you can evolve these journeys. You can recalibrate those journeys, okay, based on the learnings that you're getting. Without a feedback loop, how are you going to take a corrective action? Other aspect is your downstream analytics. You need to evaluate as a part of your DCX maturity assessment that what are the different types of measures and dashboards and scorecards in place to evaluate the effectiveness of the incumbent journeys as well as the new journeys we are moving towards. Last piece is your organization structure and the leadership, that how committed they are in moving this particular route. Is this DCX charter is run by one department? Okay. See, remember, if you're doing an innovation in one department, it takes a lot of time to scale it up. So you need leadership support. You need leadership backing to expedite the scale-up process. Otherwise, most of the ideas get killed in one department. So my learning says, whichever idea you start with, whether it's around your digital customer experience or could be on any other topic, starts with two departments first. Because two departments synergy collaboration becomes a wonderful case study or a success story for other departments to also adopt, because ultimately it's a ripple effect happens. So start with two departments, let them converge their energies, let them decide that how to collaborate and give a more seamless experience to the customers. And one thing I think I probably missed was the process and culture, that you have the right process and culture in place to go that particular route. So now coming back to the 4 success factors we were discussing on, which is around developing agility in delivering journey transformation, you also need to look at how to execute these kind of programs in a Scrum fashion. Okay, run sprints, run 2 weeks, 1 week sprint. Try to see how your minimum viable ideas, your minimum viable journeys are being adopted by your customers. Measure it, recalibrate it based on the feedback that you're collecting, either through focus groups or through online surveys, or even if you're collecting the feedback through the digital channel where you're using platforms like your analytics tools like Adobe Analytics or Google Analytics, or any kind of a customer experience analytics platform, could be like Decibel Insights is there, or maybe any kind of a testing platform you're using like Optimizely, or maybe Adobe Target is there to execute different types of A/B and multivariate campaigns to influence the customer journeys. So before we end our conversation for today, I just want to call out that every DCX strategy revolves around customer, and having an understanding of those customers, those segments, is very, very critical. And when you're talking about a customer, you're talking about their needs, their wants, their aspirations. And if you're not keeping them at the epicenter of your overall digital transformation strategy, the whole piece goes for a fall. Because ultimately your target is to gain cost efficiency and process efficiencies. You also want to deliver a seamless and more memorable experience to the customer. And if the customer is not at the epicenter, you're not looking at the outside in strategy, everything goes for a toss. So I think so that's the only thing I wanted to discuss in today's episode. And if you have any comments, any questions, please post it below. Okay, so until then, hasta pronto, stay safe and stay connected.